grown. Possibly, this is a black president. The unfortunate events of time of this great man. So this is some bit thanks to it's always a perfect story. It's President Obama, it's Trayvon Martin, the unfortunate situation there, the 150th anniversary of the abolition of slavery, and the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. All these things at one time. I think that's obviously garnered in response to the movie. I often think that any other time, possibly it would have gone overlooked or overlooked, or people would want to sort of approach it in a reflective manner. And I'm just sort of grateful that we can actually make this movie, and the response has been so great. So that's all really.
You've assembled a remarkable cast to tell this story, and you bring them to some very dark places. This is a difficult experience, I would imagine, for an actor to put him or herself through. Can you talk a little bit about casting the film and what you needed from your actors to tell the story?
I think what I needed from actors is total absolute commitment. I mean, the fact that they're standing here now, and I'm in my sax, tells you a lot about it. I like to make films. I mean, if you're not giving 110%, there's no reason to be here. These are not actors, they're artists. I never ever want to be an actor. Hopefully I inspire them, they inspire me. It's a dance, it's poetry, it's cinema. That's what cinema is about, making a story. And particularly this story of slavery, it had to be, history is a very, very strange thing. In a book, it's all these words in a book, but when you see it illustrated on film, within a narrative, it brings another dimension to it. It brings it into the everyday reality. So once, I hope at least, when people leave the cinema and they exit, the movie continues, but obviously in the present day. We will pass into the present.
Can we hear from your actors, Chiwetel, you of course having the lead role in a very complex performance, so thank you for that. Speak as well. Tell us a little bit about what you had to go through to deliver this performance.
Thank you so much. This was an extraordinary script and an amazing and beautiful autobiography, and I feel like the journey was all about engaging with this man and his experience. And trying to connect to that in the hope that we would understand and be able to reveal just a fraction of what he went through and his experience, and try to create a reality out of that that could be presented to the modern day, and the hope being that if we could get even a fraction of that we could achieve something. And I'm just so grateful to the experience of working with Steve, and the rest of the extraordinary cast, but it really is Solomon's journey in his book that is a gift to the modern world.
Thank you. Before we open it up to you, I just want to ask Michael if you could just, because you've worked with Steve on all of his feature films.
Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, Fassbender.
Put together one of the great bodies of work in cinema in just 3 films. Can you tell us a little bit about how it is you work together? What does McQueen ask of his actors, and how do you deliver it?
Painful. It's just a really special experience. It's one that I was certainly seeking from the beginning when I decided to take this career on, that you look for somebody like Steve, you know, somebody that will bring the best out of you and take you to the limit of yourself and then beyond it, and then maintain that level of beyond the limit, if it makes any sense. I mean, the focus on set is incredible, not just with the cast that he assembles, but with the entire crew. And there's just this sort of absolute, you know, do or die philosophy on the set. It's just amazing. The great thing, well, one of the many great things about Steve is that he allows you to believe in your instincts. And so whatever choices you make are the right choices, because you're in the right moment. And it's the sort of prep that goes into it. It's the sort of attention, the care, the love that's brought out of these sort of incredibly difficult stories to tell. There's a lot of love that's brought to the set, and that's, you know, thanks to Steve.
What I also like is that each one of you has such distinct moments. Alfre, your scene on the porch, Lupita, so many of your scenes, that final separation, and you as well, Sarah. Each one of you was given really distinct, powerful moments in the film. It's amazing. Thank you. Well, I'm going to go right here first. Go ahead, yes? The question is for Michael about how you prepare to play a despicable.
Yeah, I mean, kind of trying sort of, well, he's a human being, so I've got to sort of approach it with a very sort of human touch. You know, trying to find his voice first, so worked with a lot of different tapes. Tim Monick helped me out, dialogue coach, and then just spending time with the script, a lot of time with the script, but just, you know, trying to find the human being in the Epps, you know, because everybody, obviously, what he does is pretty terrible, but I don't know, there's something in there that I kind of feel sorry for him, you know, that he's a victim of the time as well, you know, he's in love with Patsy, and he can't deal with it, you know, how can you be in love with a slave? And so he sets about, you know, suppressing her and beating her to try and beat it out of himself. So I thought that there was a really amazing humanity to him in that alone. So that was my in, you know, the sort of love for Patsy and exactly how he was sort of processing that. And I think, you know, I've said this before with Epps, I think I see him as a representative of the time. You know, he's all the ugliness of the time is sort of culminated in this character.
Thank you. Is there a question in the balcony? Yeah, center, go ahead.
Hi, question for Steve. I found the film to be stylistically quite different from, sorry, I'll speak louder, stylistically quite different from your past films. I was wondering, did you feel that you needed to put yourself in a different place as a director for this film, given the subject matter and the importance of the story?
Questions about the style of the film and how it differs from previous work?
I don't really, you know, I'm not cool. I'm way not cool. So I don't really think about style that often.
Oh, yeah.
I have to go where it's necessary to capture what's in front of me. So therefore, it's not about sort of thinking about it in a storyboard or sort of prep in such a way. It's all about what's in front of me and what the actor has to do and sort of what's going on in the scene, where the camera has to be. It's kind of, I don't know, I can't mean like a hanging situation or anything else. You okay, that's right, and that's wrong. That's about it. I don't know.
I love this guy. So.
Question for Michael. The 3 films you've done with Steve, which one was the most challenging?
I don't know, it's apples and oranges. I don't know. I mean, experience and respect. They all had various sort of levels of, challenge to them, but I have to say with this one here, I mean, really, the support system outside of Steve, which is always like, I love him to death, but these guys, I had a really sort of, amazing, you come to work and you're sort of supported by this cast, and I think together we sort of looked after each other and provoked each other and supported each other. So, it's challenges in all of these ways.
Thank you. There's a question right here, yes?
I love your work, Steve. It's really amazing. I just wanted to know, in terms of the role of women in slavery, and it's very layered, and I thought you handled each woman in the film remarkably well, and I would like to hear from them to talk about their role.
The question is about the female characters in the film. Alfre, Lupita, Sarah would like to comment.
With Mr. Shaw, we know that she existed, women like her existed. The challenge was, and Steve laid the bed for it and prepped it all and kept a close eye and hand on it. We had to create a world that you could believe was still going on when we were away from the world of the explantation, and that it gives us another into Patsy. And I think Mrs. Epps could not, Mrs. Shaw she couldn't associate with the other plantation mistresses. She couldn't go into the field, and she loved that. And so there's some nobility in Patsy that she recognizes, although Patsy is in that field picking 500 pounds of cotton a day. She recognizes that in her, and she's company for her. And so it's a world that she desperately needs. She's got other black people waiting on her and screaming, and she calls him Big F as soon as he walks up. But she recognizes a kindred person and starts the process of helping Patsy to understand how to use her power in that world. And the fact that Solomon is learning. Mistress Shaw is not, but she knows somebody when she sees it, and so that's another way of her getting close to his gentility and sophistication. So she creates her own party. These are the only two people that she could possibly have a social life with outside of her husband.
For me, Patsy was such an incredible woman in the script, and I was so excited about getting the opportunity to bring her back to life. I mean, she's described as being agile, genial, pleasant-tempered, and the hardest worker of the field. But at the same time, she wishes for her death. And that kind of complexity is something that one can only dream of playing. And to know that she was a real woman that tread this earth just made it even more humbling and more inspiring to do. And for me, the thing that I love most about Patsy is that she experienced so much pain, but she was always working through it, not wallowing in it. And that kind of strength is so inspiring, and I wanted to play her with agency and dignity, because these... I'll stop there. Thank you.
Sarah, if you could add your own thoughts as well.
Well, I play Mistress Epps, and although she behaves deplorably, obviously, I had to find a way into playing her in a way that I could sit with and understand, and the way to do that was to realize that she was behaving out of fear. And it's not to justify her behavior, but just to sort of acknowledge that this is a woman who was being usurped by someone and in front of everyone and was deeply embarrassed, and her way of fighting back was to behave in a indefensible kind of way. That was her way of dealing with it. And again, I'm not trying to justify her behavior, but as an actor, when you're doing it, it's not my job to judge her or to decide, the right and wrong of it, but to commit, because the story that I'm part of telling is the story of Solomon and Patsy and all of those men and women and children, and it wasn't for me to get in the way of it, to try to make it softer or more palatable or to go down more easily. That would have been a big disservice to the story. The only way to do it was to lean in and throw myself into it without apology. And so...
Questions about creating the relationships among the characters in the film. Steve, you want to start with that?
I think it starts with the people behind us, people behind the job. And we got on, we were family. We got on so well, and we supported each other, during the hard times of shooting, and that was the key, that we are supporters of each other. There was a family, we loved each other, from catering to hair and makeup, to the grips, to gaffers, camera department, wardrobe. It was just one big club, one big group of people who were there for each other. So when we have that environment, and when you walk into the environment and it smells good and it smells bad, but if you walk into an environment where it smells good, you feel safe, then you can experiment, then you can risk, then you can fail, then you can feel better. Then you get up and just try it again. Those are the kind of environments one needs to be for artists to actually to do their job. And this is, I think that's very important. It's rare, but that's where I want to be things done, because I'm here to support them.
It's rare. It doesn't happen that much.
We are going to have to end it there, unfortunately.
We have 3 more questions, please.
Wow. Yes. See McQueen has power.
Questions about researching for the film and how much you went back to history, historical records?
Oh, sorry. That question is to me.
Sorry, this is a very important part of the film that Lupita researched herself, which was a corn dolls that she made in the movie, which was very interesting. Please continue.
So, thank you, Steve. In my research, I was always trying to figure out what Patsy's life was beyond the scenes that were in the script. And one evening, shortly before we started to film, I was daydreaming and asking myself, what else did Patsy do with her hands? Because she's described as having dexterous hands. She's the fastest cotton picker in the bayou. So I had the inclination that she must have done something artistic with her hands. And so it occurred to me, and I think it was a visitation from Patsy's spirit himself, that she may make corn husk dolls. I knew that there was corn grown on the Epps plantation, so I looked it up, and indeed it was historically accurate that slaves did make crafts out of corn husk. And so I went to Steve with the idea the next day, and he loved it and had the artifact provided with corn immediately.
Yes, Steve McQueen, yes. I love this man. I just like that.
Hi. I think I speak for everyone when I say that Chiwetel, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Gave an incredibly moving performance. I heard a bunch of sniffles around the area. I want to know, it's such a heavy role. What did you do to sort of get through that, and what are the kind of conversations that you had with Steve to take that on and really embody that character?
Well, first of all, Steve is, I think you mentioned very watchful and very skilled, and so it allows you the sort of safety net, the security to just try, to carry on trying. And I think from the very beginning we were all aware that it was going to take a lot to get to these places, but I felt that it's, like I was saying before, Solomon's story really instructs that, and to try and to connect to that, to him, was something that Steve and I spoke about, constantly as we were shooting, and what his reality was, and the, as Lupita said earlier, the fact that this is somebody's real experience completely enhances doing it, enhances the responsibility, but also allows you a way into some of the more uncomfortable sides of it, because you kind of refer back to him and his experience.
All right. We are going to have to end it there.
FASSBENDER! Smile at us! Holy shit. We're the same year as FASSBENDER. That is insane. Oh yeah. Just follow FASSBENDER. FASSBENDER! Oh shit.